Hey, what's up, everybody? Grayson Carter here, and welcome to today's training on designing your dream life. So let's just jump in and get started. So, I have a few rules of engagement here, and this is particularly for this program, but also these rules should apply to all areas of your life. Successful people, happy people, people that live fulfilled lives, they live by a different set of guidelines, they get a different set of rules that help them achieve extraordinary results. And so I've tried to boil down as much of those that I've used in my own life to be able to share with you guys today to hopefully help give you some guidelines, some frameworks in order to get more out of life, whether that's making more money in the business, having more fulfilling relationships, having a better career, whatever that is, giving you some guidelines to be able to live by to help you achieve that. So I'm just going to go through some of these one by one, and then we'll get into more specifics here in a couple of minutes. So the first one is that your life is and always will be 100% by your design. So everything that you have in your life now is a result of decisions that you've made in the past. The relationships you have, the job you have, how much money you're making, the education that you have, those are all based on decisions that you've made at some point in the past, or a lack of a decision that you made at some point in the past. So when we take 100% responsibility for what we have now, it becomes much easier to affect our future because we know that what happens in the future is going to be directly related to the actions, the behaviors, the decisions that we make today. So taking 100% responsibility of that is going to help you live a much more fulfilled life because you realize that you are 100% in control of how your life turns out. Now, there are absolutely no excuses, whining, or complaining of any kind. Now, that not only goes for this program, but it also goes for your life in general. Again, we don't want to make excuses for anything that we don't like in our life. We just want to take responsibility for it and say, okay, how can I make a different decision from here on out so that I can change my situation? I'm 100% confident that you have all the resources necessary to be wildly successful in this program, and I wouldn't have let you in if I didn't truly believe that. So the people that get the absolute best results in this program are the ones that find a way to make it happen regardless of where they're starting. So always be looking for a way to make what you have work. And if you're confident that you're going to make it work, it will turn out for you. So there's also going to be things that push you outside of your comfort zone and force you to grow as a person. You just really have to embrace it. If it's the first time we're making sales calls, if we're asking for more money than we've ever asked for in the past, if we're working with clients in a much more intimate setting for longer periods of time, that's going to be uncomfortable at first. But I encourage you to just push through it because the amount of success you have is going to be directly correlated to how willing you are to be uncomfortable through the process. So usually when we get uncomfortable, that means that we're getting to the edge of our comfort zone, and pushing past that is really going to help us expand who we are as people. It's going to help our business grow. And there's just so many great things waiting for us on the other side of just being willing to sit through that uncomfortable brief period to get the result that we want. So lastly, it's important that you do the work. It's not enough to understand this material academically. If academics was all that was required, anybody with a PhD would be a millionaire. Now, you and I both know that that's not the case. So taking the information and learning it is important, but applying it is the most important thing. So putting it into practice, using it on a daily basis, that's what's going to get you the results that you want in life. So next, I want to talk about some success frameworks. So successful people think differently. They have their own rules that govern their decisions, and I want to talk about some of those today. So I encourage you to watch or to rewatch this portion of the training often. Every time you watch it, I'm guessing you're going to find something new. It's going to mean something differently to you. And actually, even when I go through this, when I've taught this multiple times before, I will go back and look at my different slides, and I realize like there's things that I've changed and learned throughout the process. And so these mean something different to me every time I do it. So I encourage you to revisit this often and try to internalize it as much as you can. So the first framework I want to talk about is confidence. Now, confidence comes from acting confident. Now, this is probably completely counterintuitive to what most people think about where confidence comes from. Most people think that I'm going to sit around and wait until I become confident in something, and then that will help me act. That will help me do the thing that I want to be confident about. Well, unfortunately, that just isn't the case. You have to do the thing in order to become confident. And so if you're waiting to do something until you have more confidence, it's never going to play out. I want you to think back to a second, or for a second. How'd you feel like right before and right after doing something like giving a big speech, talking to somebody that you had a crush on or that you were really attracted to, maybe a big pitch that you had to do to a client? Think about what those feelings were before and after. Typically, beforehand, there's a lot of nervousness. There's kind of this anxiety, like, oh my gosh, I want to retreat. I don't want to do this. This is really uncomfortable. Well, likely once you did that thing, once you gave the speech, once you talked to that person, once you pitched that client, chances are immediately afterwards, you probably had this surge of confidence where you just felt expansive and you felt great, like you could conquer the world. Well, that is how confidence works. We're not going to have the confidence before we do something. Confidence comes from doing it and building the confidence afterwards. So I encourage you, do the thing and you will have the power. So one of the tricks that I kind of use to get myself into this mindset, if I'm ever kind of struggling to do something or feeling like, hey, I don't want to take this action right now, but I know that I need to, I ask myself, what would the most confident person I know do in this situation? Let's say I know I need to make a phone call. I'm nervous about it. It's for a potential big client, and I'm nervous. I'm not really sure exactly what I'm going to say. I try to think, okay, who is somebody that I know that's super confident? And what would they do if they were in this situation? Well, chances are they would just pick up the phone, dial the number, and say, hey, so-and-so, and just start the conversation. They wouldn't think twice about it. They'd just dive right in. And so I encourage you to think about that for yourself. If there's ever a situation that you're kind of resisting, who is somebody that is just supremely confident in your life, somebody that you know that you feel like, oh my gosh, if they just walked in, and like, how would they handle that situation? I encourage you to do exactly the same. Now, lastly, when it comes to confidence, your clients are buying your leadership and your confidence in them more than they are buying the service that you're offering. So you can be an amazing practitioner. You can be, have amazing case studies. But if somebody comes in and you're like, him and Han, like, I'm not sure I can help you, really like coming from like a disempowered stance, that person's probably not going to buy on, no matter how much how great your results are. People want to know that you can help them. And people want to follow people that are confident in what they're doing. So make sure that when you're talking to clients, when you're talking to prospects, that you are coming across as like, if you can help that person, be clear about that. Hey, I can absolutely help you. This is exactly the type of person I deal with. I know we can get you a great result. And that is going to help them be confident in you that you're going to be able to get them that result. So again, confidence comes from acting confident. Do the thing and you will have the power. So next is drama versus data. Now, drama is our emotional reaction to something that's happened. So I guess just to be clear, we want to make sure that we're understanding what these terms are. So anytime that we are having an emotional reaction to something, that's going to be drama. That's not based on any facts or figures. That's strictly the emotional response that we're having to something that's happened. Now, data on the other hand, is how we measure what happened. So that's going to be our facts, our figures. And so we always want to look for a data point in anything that happens so that we can remove the drama. So here's kind of how this usually shows up for my clients, or how it may be showing up for you. It's easy to say, like, let's say you're not making the type of money that you want to be making. It's easy to say, like, I'm not making enough money because my marketing isn't working. Well, that's a bit of kind of a dramatic statement. I mean, if you think, if I want to say this all whiny, like I could say, oh, this isn't working. My marketing's not working. Everything sucks. Well, let's find a data point to find out exactly what's happening. Well, how many leads did you generate last week? When we're asking that, that's a data point. Okay, did you generate 1 lead? Did you generate 10? Did you not generate any? Okay, so now we have a data point there. Are they generating enough leads? How many of those leads turned into consults? Okay, so you've got 10 leads, and how many consults did you get out of that? Okay, maybe you got 4 consults out of that. Great. How many offers did you make? Well, those are all data points that we can start to determine where along our path something isn't working. So it's not that the marketing isn't working, it's that maybe we didn't generate enough leads. Maybe not enough of those turned into consults. Maybe we got plenty of consults, but none of those turned into sales. Well, those are all different problems that we need to solve. We can't just group them into one giant problem like, oh my gosh, my marketing isn't working. So we want to find a data point so that we don't have these sort of dramatic reactions to things that are happening to us. So where this may show up for you is if you're working with a client and maybe they come in after working with you for a month or two and they say, my cholesterol levels are exactly the same. This meal plan isn't working. Well, chances are that's a dramatic reaction to something that's happening. There's no data there. So we want to find what that data is. Let's find something that's going to tell a more complete picture of what's happening. So you probably got to ask them a handful of questions like, okay, well, exactly how many grams of trans fat did you consume this month versus the prior month? Or exactly how many times did you exercise last week? What we're trying to do is we're trying to get a data point so we can understand exactly the situation that person's in. If we find out, well, they actually haven't been following the meal plan, they've been eating, all the wrong things, or maybe they haven't been exercising at all, that's going to tell us a really clear picture of what's happening. But just to say hey, this thing isn't working, well, that's pretty disempowering. That's not going to be able to help us improve anything. So one way that you can use this with your clients is to ask questions that include ESP. And ESP is just an acronym for exactly, specifically, and precisely. So you want to say exactly how many times did you exercise last week? Specifically, how many calories, grams of fat, saturated fat, et cetera, did you consume yesterday? So we're not giving any sort of ambiguity here. We want to find out exactly what their current situation is so that we can help figure out exactly what the problem is and how to move forward. So we're always looking for a data point. Anytime that drama comes up in our life, we just need to look at a data point or find a data point to help us get rid of the drama. So the next framework is premise versus practice. So you must believe something as a premise in order to make it a practice. So I'll just give a couple of examples here of what I mean. The more you invest in yourself, the easier it is to allow others to invest in themselves through you. So for example, if you are not willing to invest in yourself, and I find that hard to believe, and it's actually, if you're in this program, it means you have invested in yourself, so this isn't the case. But if you're unwilling to, let's say, invest $5,000 in yourself in order to learn a new skill, if you're unwilling to do that for yourself, it's probably going to be almost impossible for you to ask anybody else for $5,000 for them to learn a skill from you. Because in your mind, if you're not willing to spend that on yourself, you probably think this isn't worth the money. And so it's going to be really tough justifying it to yourself to convince somebody else that, hey, it's worth it for you to invest the money in me, but I'm not willing to invest that money in myself. So we want to look at where are our actions different than our beliefs. So another place where this shows up is we want to be decisive so that other people are decisive too. If we make decisions, if we're always wavering with our decisions, always going back and forth, looking for more information, chances are our clients are going to do exactly the same thing. Another place is we want to make sure that we pay people on time so that other people will pay us on time. If we let our bills drag out, we pay people late, we are always kind of a problem client. Chances are that's the type of person that you're going to attract into your life. So any place that we want to see an improvement in our business or in our life, we need to make sure that we're exhibiting that exact appropriate behavior. So we need to be investing in ourselves so that people can invest in us. We want to be decisive and make decisions quickly so that other people can be decisive and make decisions quickly. We want to pay people on time. I try to make it a habit that as soon as I get an invoice, I just pay it right away. Yeah, even if I have 30 days to be able to pay an invoice like from my accountant, I just like to get on, pay him right away and get him his money because that's how I like to be paid. If I send an invoice, I like people to just pay it, and that's how I like to operate. So look for places where maybe you're being incongruent with what the outcome that you'd like to achieve. If people are slow payers, if you're working with indecisive people, look for areas of your own life where you may be exhibiting those behaviors that you don't necessarily want to see. This also comes down to, like, if you have a great experience, give people reviews and testimonials, and your clients will want to do the same for you. So I want to give a quick example here at the end. Roger Bannister was a a gentleman, and he was the first person to break the 4-minute mile. And he did that in 1954. Well, the amazing thing is that, so he was the very first person to be able to run a mile in under 4 minutes. There was lots of people that didn't think that it could be done. Well, the amazing thing is that within a year after he broke that it's not a record, but once he broke that limit, 24 more people did it the following year. Now, the training didn't change, like the track didn't change. None of this, nothing changed except people's belief that it was possible. And so we need to make sure that we believe things are possible and that that is the appropriate behavior, and we will act accordingly. And that's going to apply to yourself, but it's also going to apply to your clients, your friends, your family. So we need to make sure that we believe something as a premise before we can actually see it as a practice. All right, let's talk about money. So it's important to know exactly how much money you need to make each year, month, week, and day. So if we're trying to make a certain amount of money, like let's say we're trying to make $100,000 this year. Well, I find that it's much more useful to know, hey, you got to make $8,333 per month in order to add up to that. Okay, if I need to make $8,300 a month, okay, well, I need to make at least $2,000 a week. So that should kind of tell you, to make $100,000 a year, I need to sell at least one program at $2,000 a week. I don't know exactly what that comes out to. Let's see, 52 weeks a year at $2,000 a piece. So it'd be just a little bit over. It'd be, if you took a couple weeks vacation, you'd be right at $100,000. So really what we're trying to do is we don't make $100,000 overnight. We need to make $1,000 a week, or excuse me, $2,000 a week. So working backwards, we can figure out, hey, if I need to make $2,000 a week by selling one program, how many people do I need to talk to this week in order to sell one program? Well, if we know our conversion rate, let's just say it's 1 in 5, that for every 5 people I talk to, every 5 qualified people I talk to, I generate one sale. Well, great. Your job is to get 5 scheduled calls every single week. Now, whatever that takes, and I mean, really that only breaks down to 1 a day. You got to be doing 1 call a day. So how can I have one quality conversation with a prospect that I can help each and every day of the week? And if we can do that, we're naturally going to be able to hit our numbers. Now, if our conversion rate isn't as good, we're going to have to do more calls. If our conversion rate is better than that, we could do less calls. But it's important to know what our goals break down to on a daily basis. Because like I said, we're not going to make $100,000 overnight. We're going to make it at small increments at a time. So we need to know what we need to be doing on a regular basis, how much income we need to be generating each day in order to hit those goals by the end of the year. Now, I also find it's really helpful to have a plan for exactly what you're going to do with every dollar. So you should know how much money you're spending on your house, your car, your office, vacation, how much you want to be saving, how much you want to be investing. Every dollar should have a purpose. And if you have a plan for where that money's going to go and what sort of work it's going to do for you, it's going to be much easier to make that money and feel in control of your finances. So one place where I do this in my life, like let's say with my wife and I, my wife still has a 9-to-5 job, and she gets raises occasionally throughout the year. And so what we usually do is she takes part of that increase, and we take a piece of that increase and put it into savings. And so we pretty much know it's the same amount every single time. And so she gets a little bump in spending income, but also we're putting a large portion of that into savings as well. And so knowing that we're going to do that, having a strategy to do that makes it so it's much easier. We're not trying to always negotiate against ourselves. Should this money go here? Should it go there? We know exactly where every dollar is going to go. Now, where I find people get stuck is when they start making money in their business, is they feel like it's their money. Well, treat your business's income like the business's money. It's not your money. And I find that this puts a level of separation between us and our business. And it's easier to make decisions about money when it's not ours. So one of the biggest changes that I made my business recently that's had a huge impact on how I look at the money I'm making is that I pay myself a consistent salary every week. So every week I transfer a certain amount of money from my business account to my personal account so that I can pay my bills and whatnot. A certain amount goes into a savings account for taxes and whatnot. But I'm paying myself a consistent salary, and now it's my job to go out and make sure that the business is making enough money so that I can pay that salary each and every week. And so having that level of separation where you feel like it's not your money, I feel it has a tendency to make people think about their money differently. So I encourage you to consider it the business's money and not your money until you actually transfer it into your personal account. Now, also, you don't get the money until you feel like you deserve it. If you're ever asking for money, like let's say you're asking for somebody to buy a program from you and you're asking for $2,000, if you don't feel like you are worth $2,000, there's no way that person's ever going to pay that amount of money. The first sale that you need to make with yourself is that what you're offering is worth every single penny of what you're asking for, and that any money that you receive, that you darn well deserve every penny of it. As soon as you feel like that, it's going to be much easier to accept that amount of money. Now, if you struggle with this, I highly encourage you to pick up a book called Killing Sacred Cows, and it talks about how money is just a exchange of value, and if you're providing value to people, that you deserve to be paid equitably. So I highly recommend you pick it up. There's a lot of other great tools in there, but if you have any sort of issues around money, and you feel like money's a dirty thing, you don't like talking about money, Killing Sacred Cows is a great place to start. Now, lastly, I just want to make the point that there's a limit to how much you can save, but there's no limit to how much you can make. Now, I know when you're starting off in a business, if you're brand new, funds can be tight. You're trying to bootstrap things and get things going, but you never want to limit your investment in the business if it's going to choke off the amount of potential or if it's going to choke off potential revenue, because you can keep slashing your expenses, but eventually you're going to get them so low that you can't save your way into making millions. The only way you can do it is by going out and generating more income. So what I encourage you to do is look at the places, try to be scrappy, but don't prevent yourself from investing in the tools that are going to help you go out and get more clients. So whether that's investing in advertising, whether that's investing in the tools that help you grow the business, like practice management software, email marketing software, don't deprive yourselves of that, because those are the things that are going to generate income. And saving a couple $100 a month, if that prevents you from making several thousand a month, well, that is not a very good place to be saving your money. So I encourage you to do not skimp on the things that are going to help you bring in that additional revenue. All right, commitment. So I just want to start with a quote, and that is that you are not the highest version of yourself that you can imagine. You're the lowest version of yourself that you can accept. And so where this comes into play is that you want to make sure that you're always raising the level of how you view yourself, and what you're willing to accept for yourself. Because people never do what they should do, but they always do what they must do. And so if we can raise our level of what we're able to accept, we're just naturally going to go out and get it. Most people know what they need to do, but they're not committed enough to do it. So again, this goes back to kind of the academic versus implementation problem. Just to know something is not enough to get us the result we want. We actually need to go out and put it into practice. So anytime we don't have exactly what we want in our life, we need to look at, okay, where are we not taking what we know and putting it into practice? Now, when it comes to commitment, there's only today. There's no 5 years out. We can't plan for the future. I mean, we can to some degree, but the only thing that we can affect is today. And imperfect action today is better than perfect action never. So I see a lot of people get stuck in this kind of like preparation mode, that they're always planning. It's like, hey, I'm going to go on a week trip and I'm going to spend months and months and months preparing for it. And they just keep pushing out the trip because they never feel like they're prepared enough to take action. So it's important to commit and take that imperfect action today, to just get started. Another thing that has been incredibly helpful for me is that being 100% in on something is 100 times easier. I put 10 times easier here, but I think it's probably 100 times easier than being 99% in something. You never want to give yourself an out. So where this happened for me is when I was uh, right out of college when I was working for the family business, I had started a small business on the side. I was doing like web development. I was doing marketing for a few other companies, and I had that business for a couple of years, and it never really made more than a few $1,000s a month, even though I was trying to grow it. And I think the reason that was is because I had this day job that could support me. It paid the bills. I made it a decent income there, and so I was never 100% in on the marketing business. Well, things ended up falling apart there, and I ended up going out on my own 100%, and the business ended up taking off very, very quickly because I was forced to be 100% in my marketing business. And so that's going to be true with anything. Another place where this has showed up for me has been when I upped my CrossFit membership from 3 days a week to basically 6 days a week. So I don't necessarily go 6 days a week, but when I was going only 3 days a week, there'd be a lot of days where I'd be like, I'm tired. I don't want to go. I'll go tomorrow. And then tomorrow would come and I would do the same thing. I'm kind of tired today. It's not a great workout. I'll go the next day. And I'd end up going less than 3 days, which didn't make a whole lot of sense, But as soon as I upped it to basically, hey, I'm going to go 5 days a week minimum, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I schedule it in my calendar. It's been so much easier because 4 o'clock rolls around. I leave the house, I go to my class, and I do it every single day because I'm 100% committed to it. I don't ever give myself a way out. So I want to end with a quote around commitment. And it's by W.H. Murray. And I actually pulled this out of The War of Art, which is another great book that you should check out. But it goes like this. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there's one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans. That the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would not otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issued from the decision, rising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance, which no man would have dreamed would come his way. I have learned a deep respect for one of Goethe's couplets. Whoever or whatever you can do or dream, you can begin it. Boldness has genius, magic, and power in it. Begin it now. So what this is saying is there's so many things that you can't know until you start your journey to achieve something. So just get started, and it's amazing how the universe will conspire to give you what it is that you want. So let's talk about the fundamentals for a second. So service businesses really boil down to just 3 things. And the first one being, the most important thing is attracting qualified prospects. So we need leads coming into the business. So that's running our ad, that's having conversations, that's reaching out to potential clients, anything that we can do to bring in leads into the business. Now, once we have those leads coming in, the second thing is that we need to sell them our service. So we need to find out who's qualified, who it is we can help, and if we can help them, we need to make them an offer for our service. Now, ultimately, in order to make a sale, we need to collect money. So we need to bring people in. We need them to say yes. They need to pay us. And then lastly, we need to deliver and give them a great result. So if we can do these 3 things, business becomes very simple. Now, the reason I bring this up, this may seem overly simplistic, that business is just 3 things: attracting qualified prospects, selling them your service, and then getting them a result. And it really boils down to this, is that if your business isn't successful, it's because you haven't mastered the fundamentals, not because you haven't learned the advanced stuff. It's really easy to get kind of caught up in the fancy new marketing strategies, whether that's messenger bots, Instagram marketing, Snapchat's really big right now. All those things are tools that may help you in kind of bolstering these fundamentals, but they in themselves are not enough to grow a business. Just because you're doing Snapchat, if it's not attracting qualified prospects, well, unfortunately, it's just not a good avenue to go. If you're doing messenger bots on Facebook, again, if it's not attracting qualified prospects, it just doesn't matter. So we need to make sure that we master the fundamentals before we even start considering the advanced stuff. Some of the best, most successful businesses I see out in the marketplace right now, they are pretty simplistic. You actually look at them and say, how are you not doing some of these more advanced things? And it's because they've got the fundamentals so boiled down, and they know how to operate so efficiently that they just blow all these other businesses out of the water that get distracted by the shiny new objects that come into the marketplace. So master the fundamentals and you're going to be much better off. Procrastination. This is a huge problem for most everybody. So how do we deal with procrastination? Well, the first thing is that you must take imperfect action. This is for people that are type A, that are very motivated. This can be a really tough thing to do because, we want to get everything right. We want to make sure that it's perfect before we put it out in the world. Well, unfortunately, that's just not what the universe rewards. We need to take imperfect action. We need to do something and make adjustments along the way. So one way to fix procrastination is, for one, maybe just take a second, pause this video, and sit quietly and think about the thing that you really don't want to do right now, and then go and do that one thing. Typically, what we're resisting the most is the thing that we need to do the most. So think about what is that thing that we keep putting off. Chances are that's probably the most important action that you can take today. One of my mentors has a saying. He says, show me somebody's calendar and I'll show you their priorities. If you want to get something done, it's got to be on your calendar. So the quickest way to check stuff off your to-do list is to take that thing that you don't want to do, put it on your calendar. Don't let anybody else schedule in that time, and just motivate or dedicate that time to getting that done. If it's not on your calendar, chances are it's going to be easy to put off to another day, and it's just never, ever going to end up getting done. So another way to do this is to do the most uncomfortable thing first thing in the day. If we start with the hardest thing first, our day is only going to get better, and we're going to feel much more accomplished if we just get that one thing done. I always find that when I do this and I accomplish that first thing in the day, I become really motivated, and the rest of the day is just a breeze. I can just hammer out the rest of my work, and I'm so much more productive. So do the most uncomfortable thing first. Now, just as a last reminder, the cost of doing nothing is always the most expensive thing of all. So if we're sitting still in the train tracks of life, we're just going to end up getting run over. So we need to make sure that no matter what we want to accomplish, we just need to be taking steps towards that thing. Take imperfect action today, and we can always make adjustments along the way. All right, designing your dream life. I mean, that's what this whole presentation is about. Really where kind of the rubber hits the road here is that we want to, in order to achieve our dream life or to live a dream life, is we need to be intentional about what it is, what a dream life means to us. And so where I find that people struggle at times is that they don't have a real clear picture of who they want to become, of how they want their life to unfold. And so I'm hoping that this exercise will bring some clarity for you in order to help you kind of structure that dream life, or to even determine, what is it if I could have my perfect day. What would that look like? So there's going to be a worksheet attached below this video, and I highly encourage you to go through it and give it some serious thought. And it starts by basically just envisioning your perfect day from beginning to end in intense detail. So you want to be thinking about all the things that come into your life. So like, where do you live? What type of house is it? What sort of neighborhood? What do you do first thing when you wake up? Do you go to the gym? Do you go for a run? Do you do yoga? Do you go in and wake up your kids? What is that? What would you love to do first thing every morning? What thoughts are going through your head? How do you talk to yourself? What's that self-talk like? What are you looking forward to? So we want to be really intentional about what a perfect day for us would look like, because the life is really just the culmination of all of our days on this earth. So we need to make sure that we know what it is that we want to be doing that's going to bring us the most satisfaction, the most fulfillment. And we can only do that if we know what those things are. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Obviously, things are going to change depending on where you are in your life. But knowing, hey, if I wake up first thing in the morning, I do my gratitude practices, I do my yoga, and that's really what primes me for the day. Okay, well, if we know that, we can build our morning routine to include those things to give us that great start to the day. So it's just important that we get intentional about what it is that we want to achieve, so that we can start designing our life to move towards those things. Lastly, I want to just remind you that you should never sell yourself short of what you want. No matter what that is, no matter how elaborate, somebody else in the world has achieved what you want, but started with a lot less than you have right now. So hopefully that feels very empowering, that really you can achieve anything you want in this life because other people have done it and had a lot less resources to do it with than you have at this very moment. So don't ever sell yourself short. If you want something, put it on that dream life sheet and work every day towards achieving it. All right, lastly, just to review, do a quick recap of what we talked about today. I encourage you to go back through this a few more times. I'm guessing if you're watching this today, if you come back in a couple weeks and watch it again, it'll mean a whole different, or you'll have a whole bunch of other thoughts that come up as you watch this through again. So I highly encourage you to revisit this multiple times. Go through and complete that designing your dream life worksheet. Hopefully it brings to light what it is you can be doing to live a more fulfilled life. This is something great you can do on your own, but I also encourage you to do it with close loved ones in your family, your spouse, your partner, whoever that is. What do they envision as their ideal life? I think you'd be surprised. It usually opens up some pretty interesting conversations when partners do this together, because they start to see like, okay, this is where we overlap. This is where, maybe we don't agree on things. And it's not necessarily that there's no right and wrong answer, but it's like, how can we help each other to live the most perfect life for us? So it's pretty eye-opening. I highly encourage you, spend some time, put some serious thought into that. And lastly, once you have that all figured out, commit right now 100% to building that life. You can have anything you want in this life. And as long as we're intentional about it and we wake up every day and we put ourselves into action to achieve those things, we're always going to be moving in the right direction. So that is it for today's training on designing your dream life. And that is it. So take care and good luck.